might be a little better one. Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Your Lake Fork Guide, another episode of the Guides Network. You know, it is the fall of the year. Fall of the year means a lot of heavy vegetation in lakes. A lot of heavy vegetation in lakes can lead to punching matted vegetation. Now that's absolutely one of my very favorite ways to catch them. Today I'm going to give you all the details about how I like to catch them punching matted vegetation. Oh, it might be a little better one. Get up out of there. Oh. Like we said, guys, it's the fall of the year. And as we come out of summer into fall, the grass has been growing all year through the spring, through the summer. So you got a lot of vegetation in the lake when fall comes around. A lot of lakes also, the water will start falling in the fall. Some lakes even draw down in the fall, getting ready for winter and spring rains. All that being said, a lot of vegetation, falling water at times, that's going to lead to matted vegetation. One thing that I've learned over the years, and we've documented a lot of it on camera, as you'll see in this video today, spring, summer, fall, winter, all these Florida strain bass that we've stocked in all these lakes in East Texas, they absolutely love to be underneath super heavy cover, the heaviest, densest cover. And there's nothing heavier and denser than a vegetation mat of some kind. It could be a hydrilla mat, it could be flooded mats like pondweed, hyacinth, gator grass, all that kind of stuff. It could be matted coontail. A lot of different options for matted vegetation, but one thing that I have learned is these big Florida strain largemouth think they're still down in Florida and they want to get up under some heavy matted vegetation. They absolutely love it. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's one of my favorite ways to catch them. I love the style of it, the close quarters combat, the heavy equipment, all that good stuff. But one of the other reasons it's one of my favorite ways to catch them is you got enough matted vegetation in the lake, you go to flipping and punching all day, you'll get some good bites out of it. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed, no matter what time of year, you can get bit under matted vegetation. So let's show you guys our different rigging options for punching. There's a few different ways you can go about punching as far as bait selection goes. The first one and the most basic is going to be your Texas rig punching rig. This is a 1 ounce chip proof tungsten from 6 Sense Fishing, a 6 Sense Peg X bobber stop, a 6 Sense Ox flipping hook in 4/0, and a 6 Sense prawn in the color Nirvana, my favorite. I love punching with that color. Black with blue flake on one side, green pumpkin on the other. That's our first rig. That's the pretty simple one there. That's probably the one most of you guys have seen the most of. Couple other options. We can punch with a jig. I like punching with a jig. One thing I like that 6 Sense makes, they got a scrape jig. They've got this big, heavy cover flipping, like I said, it's called a scrape jig, but it's got this screw lock on the shank. That's gonna hold your bait on there. You guys have heard me talking about a swim jig a lot lately. The 6 Sense swim jig comes with a screw lock. Hey guys, y'all saw me catch fish last week on a swim jig. Y'all saw me catch the biggest one on Monday on a swim jig. Guess what? It's the same trailer. These screw locks will make trailers last absolutely forever. The trailer on my swim jig has literally been on there for weeks at this point. So you guys can see I've taken a 6 Sense prawn and trimmed it down. I want the arms of the bait to come out right where the bottom bend of the hook is right there. So what I did was I just lined it up and measured where that would be, and then I simply used my scissors to trim it to that length. Once I've got it the right length, I'm going to go ahead and thread it onto the hook nice and straight right down the center. This hook's going to come out right between the eyes, and that's going to put those arms right where I talked about. And then you get it on there and you just start spinning. And with these little prongs, man, those little flappers they got will spin right around that hook as you lock it on there. Now, y'all see how easy that is to put on there? And I'm telling you guys, that bait can't go anywhere. It will be on there forever and ever, amen. The only time you'll ever have to change that trailer is if a fish bites off the tail end of it. Now, this is the 1 ounce scrape jig in watermelon blue. That's the prawn in watermelon blue. One of my very favorite colors to punch with. You notice the prawn that I had was Nirvana. It had blue flake in it. Something about blue flake under the mat really seems to get their attention. I've always had a lot of success punching with either green lures with blue flake. It could be watermelon, it might be green pumpkin. Okeechobee crawl is a great color. Black and blue can be a great color, but blue flake has always tend to be a big deal for me whenever I'm punching grass. So that's our second rigging option. Third is going to be very similar to this one, but with a twist. So what you're going to do is you're going to get one of these pitch black chip proof tungsten from 6 cents. Now this is the 1 1/4 ounce punch weight. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. As you see, it's got that little bottom end on it right there. Then you can buy a skirt. You can get, there's a lot of good places to get skirts from. This one right here is from 6 Cents Fishing as well. Every single piece of tackle we're using today, by the way, guys, can be found at 6centsfishing.com. It is linked in the description. If you go order anything, be sure you punch in the code Your Lake Fork Guide. It'll get you a 10% discount on all orders. So I'm going to take, I got a short end and a long end where the band is. I'm going to take the long end, flip it upside down, and go through the long end side and thread that skirt collar up onto that weight right there. Okay, now all I'm going to do is put my bobber stop on the line, slide this on there just like I have this one fixed right here, but now that skirt will hang over my bait. So basically you've got a jig profile, bulkier profile on a weedless bait. So if I'm wanting to throw a jig, right, if I'm wanting to punch with a jig, but the mats are just too dense, too thick to get that jig in there, I'm going to get that 1 1/4 ounce punching weight. I'm going to put that skirt on it, still present that big profile that I want, but have a completely weedless option that'll slide in and out of that mat a lot better. You might be asking, hey Billy, when do you like to use the skirt and when do you not? I tend to punch with skirts the colder the water is. So in the wintertime, later on in the fall, early in the spring when I'm punching, I'll tend to use skirts more often. Throughout the summer, I tend to go with just the straight bait, like I showed you guys originally, like this right here. That being said, if I'm punching and I'm getting bit but not hooking up, if they're biting it and dropping it real quick, or if I'm feeling bites and there's nothing there, they're not holding it at all, I will go ahead and change to a skirted or non-skirted. Whatever I'm doing, I'll do the opposite to see if that small adjustment can get those fish to go ahead and commit and hold on to that bait for me. All right, let's talk about rod, reel, and line. Man, you know, like I said, punching is probably my favorite way to catch them outside of sight fishing when it's sight fishing season. So I do it a lot. So I've got to have a setup that I'm really comfortable with doing it. And I've settled in on this one right here, and I've been really, really pleased with how it performs. I've been able to get some really big fish out of heavy cover, as you guys are seeing in some of the clips we've shown you today, or will show you today. This rod's just been very dependable. I've actually had this rod for a couple of years now, and it has held up to the abuse that punching will put on your equipment. This is the 7.6 Heavy Lux series from 6 Cents Fishing. Line, I'm using 50-pound braid. You could do 65. I just kind of feel like it's overkill. I mean, I think 50 pounds plenty strong. It's pretty rare that you break off on 50-pound braid. It does happen if you get a nick in your line or something, but it's pretty rare. And the line that I'm using is Power Pro. Reel, for punching, I love the Lew's Super Duty LFS. This is a big Super Duty reel. It's got a big spool. You don't need a big spool for punching, but even though it's a big Super Duty reel with a big spool, it's got a very small profile, fits very good in your hand. A little bit heavier than some of the super light reels, but not too bad, especially when you're just pitching close to the boat like we do when we're punching. But mainly the gears. It's a Super Duty. It's got big oversized gears. It's got big oversized handles. Hey, when you're trying to winch a 7 or 8 pounder out of that kind of cover that we're sitting on top of right now, matted hydrilla, I promise you, having those extra big gears and having those extra big handles and that extra leverage is going to help you immensely, immensely. I can't recommend a Super Duty enough for punching. It's a really, really, really good tool for this tactic. So that's the setup, and that's the easy part. You know, probably the hardest part about punching is not really a hard technique to learn, but it is a refined technique. And what I mean, like, the actual movements that you make are very simple. It's easy to do. But getting good at feeling the bite and getting good at getting the hook in them and getting them out of cover, that's going to take you a little bit of time. As far as area goes, guys, man, we're looking for matted vegetation. Depending on the time of year, in the summertime, I'd like to see at least 4 or 5 foot on the edge of the mat, but throughout the rest of the year, it can literally be as little as 2 foot under the edge of the mat. And if there's a lot of it, there's going to be some fish in there. So if you've got mats, and especially if you've got mats on a day like this, slick, calm water, bright blue skies, hey, try some punching. I'm telling you, it's going to work better than you think. If you've got that vegetation, go get after it. One thing I love about punching is once you learn how to do it, you can cover a lot of water. You can go along pretty fast. And so you don't have to be real definitive with your area, because it is a technique that you can be efficient at and cover an immense amount of ground in one day. All right, let's get up and show you guys the finer aspects and kind of try to talk you through what you're going to want to feel for and how to get the hook in these fish, because that's the trickiest part. So as you guys can see right now, we're showing y'all a shot of this matted hydrilla. There's hydrilla growing to the surface kind of all around the boat right now. Now the first thing you're going to need to know how to do is pitch. Pitching a bait is pretty simple. A lot of people call it flipping. Technically, flipping is when you pull out line and you get real precise, real close to the boat, and you do this right here and you just land it real soft. This is what actual flipping is. Okay, that's not what we do when we're punching. We actually do what's called pitching. But you will hear a lot of people call this flipping. They'll say they're flipping grass. This is what they mean. Pitching is just simply an underhanded cast, short to medium cast length, and you do it underhanded. It helps you be accurate, and it also helps you with a soft landing. Now, the first key component to pitching is going to be where you hold your bait. About even with the reel is going to be about right. If you want the bait to go higher in the air, you can do a shorter. This will make it come out higher. If you want it to come out lower, you can do a little bit below the reel. The more line you have out, the lower that bait will fly out of your hand. So if you've got thin mats and you're wanting a real soft entry, hold the bait a little bit below the reel handle. That'll help it stay low and go in softer. If you want to get a little more elevation, hold that bait up here like this. When you pitch it out, it'll naturally go higher. That'll help you guys. The one mistake I see people make all the time when they're pitching is they want to kind of load the rod up. They want to do this and like slingshot it out there. That's not it. You don't even have to hold the bait to pitch it. See? You don't have to hold it at all. It's just a pendulum, guys. So all you're going to do is hold your bait lightly in your hand, drop your rod tip, and you're going to drop your bait and lift your rod tip, and you're just going to flip your wrist up at the same time you drop your bait. And that bait will go plenty out there. I casted that one out there probably about 20 feet, 30 feet, something like that. And when you're punching, that's really all you need. You want to turn your electronics off. You want to keep your trolling motor quiet. That's a key component of punching, is be as quiet as possible. Turn the trolling motor level down. Try and stay as quiet. You're really close to these fish. They're typically in shallower water, so you want to eliminate as much noise as possible. But that's the fundamentals of pitching. Hold it light in your hand, point your rod down, drop your bait and flick your wrist up at the same time, and you have punched, or you have flipped. Now, here's the couple tricky parts. The first part, you know, I get asked a lot when we're punching with customers, should I just drop it in there and pull it out? Should I hop it? How high should I hop it? And there's really not a correct answer to that. That can change day to day. A lot of times they're going to bite it on the initial fall. If you get 2 or 3 or 4 bites and you notice all your bites are coming on the initial fall, pitch it in there, feel for it, pull it out and pitch again. The whole deal is you want to get that bait in and out of that mat as many times as possible. And if your bites are coming on the initial fall, there's no reason wasting time hopping it up and down or hanging it below the top of the mat and shaking it. You don't need to do any of that. You need to make as many punches in there where it goes through the mat, because that's where you're getting your bites. And the more times you get the bait through the mat, the more bites you're going to get. There are times when you do need to hop it up and down. I've had times when you pitch it in there and you don't really get a lot of bites on the initial fall, but you'll hop it up and let it fall again, and boom, you'll get bit. You'll do that 2 or 3 times, you'll get bit. On those days when they're biting it on the hop, I'll hop it 2 or 3 or 4 times, then I'll pull it out and start over. The other deal is sometimes if you notice a lot of bait fish on the surface of the mat, a lot of times these bass will suspend right under the canopy of the mat. If you notice that when you pitch in there, you're getting bites as soon as the bait goes through the mat, you're getting bites higher in the water column. One thing you can do is pitch it in there, pull it up to the top of the mat till you feel it, drop it a few inches, and then just sit there and shake it a little bit. And you'd be surprised, you'll be sitting there shaking, wham, they'll come up and knock fire out of it. So it's all about just testing out what's going on that day. I will tell you, majority of the time, most of my bites when I'm punching are coming on the initial fall. Sometimes a hop. Rarely do they bite it up at the top of the mat, but it does happen at times. That's just something where that's a day-to-day thing. You've got to pay attention to the details, and that's how you need to work that bait to get those bites. The most tricky part about punching is without a doubt getting the hook in the fish. That's a really heavy bait. And if you can feel them, they can feel you, especially with that 1 ounce tungsten on the end of that line. So when you flip in there, you need to pick up on your rod and feel before you hop, before you do anything. Always when you punch in there, watch your line. If you see your line tick, reel down and set the hook right now. But pull up. If you feel any kind of movement or weird spongy feeling at all, I want you to set the hook right from where you are. Now that's a key component right there that I don't know if you guys picked up on, but I did not drop my rod. I did not reel in any slack. You know, a lot of times on the Texas rig, we'll be going like this and we'll feel a bite and we'll reel down and get a big hook set. Absolutely do not do that when you're punching. If you take that much time to set the hook when you're punching, a lot of times they're going to spit it out. You're not going to get them. You're just going to little tick there. Little tick there. See how quick I set that hook? That's how you want to do it. Most likely that was a little fish, that's why I didn't catch him. Or a brim maybe. Might have been a brim pecking at my bait. I've had that a couple times today. I've had brim hitting my bait and I just swing and miss on them. But like I was saying before that fish so rudely interrupted me, when you lift up on your rod, if you feel any kind of sponginess or weirdness, you want to set from right here. You want to set it as hard as you can from wherever you're at. When you're this close with a 7/6 heavy rod, basically a broomstick, and 50-pound braid, there's no stretch. Man, you've got all this heavy gear. You don't need that much torque to drive a hook home from this distance with this gear. So going from right here to right here is more than enough to give you a good hook set. The deal is it just needs to be sharp, quick, and violent when you set that hook home. You don't want to ease into this. This is a big, heavy gauge hook. And if you were going to drive a nail in a wall, would it be easier to push that nail with your thumb and push it into the wall? Or do you take a hammer and pop it? That's what I always tell people, especially the bigger the nail is, the harder you got to pop it. Well, that's a pretty big nail as far as fishing hooks go. That's got a heavy gauge to the hook. So you've got to really be short, sharp, and violent with your hook sets. Flip it in there. Feel for it, fish, boom, right there. I mean, it's got to be quick. You got to get it in them real fast. And I even did something bad there. That was incorrect mechanics on my part. I dropped the rod a little bit right there on that one. And then the main deal is, guys, with this, if you get the right equipment, once you get the hook in them, don't let up. So once you do your little short, sharp, hard hook set, man, just start winching. If you get you a big old 8-to-1 Super Duty Lose like I got, right? Okay, you can winch them out of some stuff now. Now I want to catch that fish. It's probably just a brim. Probably got no chance to catch him, but he bit my cricket, so now I want to catch him. Y'all know what I'm saying? It's a weird disorder, this fishing deal. I'm telling you, it'll take over your life. Well, guys, if you've never punched before, I highly encourage you to get out and try it, man. It's so much fun when you feel that tick and you set the hook and all that junk and you're fighting a pretty good sized fish trying to get him out of that stuff. It's just one of the funnest ways you can catch a bass, for sure. Hey guys, if you've never punched before, man, go out and try some of these tips. Try punching. I promise, man, the first time you hook one under that tick stuff and you got to fight him and get him out of there, he's a good one. You're going to be absolutely addicted and in love with it, just like I am. Hey, if you have punched before, I certainly hope some of the things we talked about today may help you in the future. Most importantly, man, thank you guys so much for the support that y'all shown me over the years. We've been doing this deal, I guess, coming up on, we're getting close to the 4-year mark from when we started making videos every week like we did in November of 2016 was when this deal started. So we're a month away from being at the 4-year mark. And my life has certainly changed in a lot of ways because of folks like yourself that have watched the videos and supported what we've done here. So sincerely, thank you guys so very much. Y'all go over to 6 Sense Fishing, order up some of that gear, punch in that code, your Lake Fork Guide, save your 10%, and let's go catch more and bigger bass and love our fellow man. I almost said fast. Is fast? Is that something we can catch? If it is, if it'll bite, I'll catch it. Hey, we'll see you guys next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.